Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and today we're going to take a look at the very special InWin A1. Keep watching to find out more. Okay, so today is going to be a first for the unboxing channel. This is my first Mini ITX case, or at least one that I've unboxed. I have owned one previously, but I don't really class it as a multi-function computer. Essentially, it's like an Android box because it's so small and has very, very little flexibility. So when InWin offered to let me review this particular model, I was over the moon and also a little bit scared, because we all know that Mini ITX generally means not the cheapest. And that is actually the case with this case. This isn't a cheap case by any means, so if you're looking for a budget Mini ITX case, certainly look elsewhere. But if you're looking for something which is well built, well constructed, covers a lot of bases and looks fantastic, then this is going to be right up your street. Okay, so let's go over some of the highlights. Now, first of all, as you can see, the tempered glass side window, which is very much carrying on with the same design language as the InWin 101, the 103, the 303, etc. Now they use the standard InWin pop pins, and the glass panel just comes out nicely and actually rests into the case on these little plastic lugs, which fits in really nicely, and you can pretty much do this one-handed, even whilst filming a video. So easy to remove, easy to keep clean. So let's take that back off so we can have a look actually at the rest of the case. So one of the things you'll notice straight away is this area here. Now behind this blanking panel is the included 600 watt power supply. Now it is a standard ATX sized power supply, 600 watt rating. Now the brand that's actually on it, not too sure who they are, but from what I can find out, this is actually manufactured by FSP. So it's a pretty decent power supply. It's 80 plus bronze rated, 600 watts, so should be more than adequate for most Mini ITX builds, depending on the levels you're wanting to go to. Now moving up towards the top, we've got this tempered glass top panel, which actually does give a really premium feel to the whole build. Now originally, from what I can tell, this was originally destined to be a wooden top panel, but due to the manufacturing process, and obviously with thin wood, you get warping, distortion with heat, etc. So in the end, they opted for this glass finish, which I actually prefer. I think the glass is much nicer than what wood would be. If it was a wooden top, it would essentially look like a chopping board, which for me isn't a great look. So if you're a regular viewer of the channel and you know about the AirPod reviews that I've been doing recently and the AirPod clones, this is going to be fantastic. With the built-in QI charger on the top, you can have your PC going, or actually when the PC is off, as long as the mains is connected, the top QI charger will remain active, so you can leave your AirPods or whatever phone that supports QI charging, just leave it on the top and it will charge away nicely. So if this is maybe in your bedroom or on the side by, if you've got like an office setup, then when you're working away, just put your phone on the top and it'll keep charged, and it's also going to be close to hand. And again, if you're using it where there's a slight distance, so maybe you are using it as a media center and you've got it a few feet away with a large screen TV, again, same deal. If you're not using your AirPods, stick them on the top and they'll charge as you're doing whatever you're doing. Also on the top, you've got this really nice aluminium, and it is completely aluminium. There is no plastic involved whatsoever. It's not coated or anything. The power button and the I/O is all aluminium, and again, adds to the premium feel of the case. So you've got a power button, you've got a hard drive LED, you've got power LED, two USB 3.0, headphone and microphone jacks, which again, pretty much all you could want. It would have been nice to have seen a USB Type-C on there as well, but again, it's not the end of the world. There's a very strong likelihood that whatever motherboard you put in this is going to have a micro USB-C on the back anyway, so for me it's not a deal breaker by any means. Switching round to the front of the case, and as you can see, nothing much going on here, very plain, very simple design. All we've got here is the metallic InWin logo, and as you can see as well, you've got the acrylic base, which this acrylic base actually goes around all the way, and it's designed so you can underlight the PC. So using your Aurora Sync, MSI, Mystic Light, or whatever it may be, you can connect up your RGB connector and synchronize whatever may be inside your PC. Say for instance, you've got the AMD fan with the LED ring around it, you can synchronize that all together so it looks nice. But don't worry, if you haven't got a RGB connector on your motherboard, they do actually supply a SATA powered RGB connector, which will provide you with either red, green or blue illumination. It comes as a default, set as one color, but all you need to do is move the pin out of the actual holder and you can select whichever color you like. So moving around to the back panel. Now the back panel, again, it's that typical in-wind design language with the hexagonal cutouts for airflow. Now if I take off the back panel, now these again, the back panel is the usual deal. So you've got the thumb screws on the back. They're captive thumb screws, so you're not going to lose them, which is nice. And you can quite easily remove the back panel. Again, the ventilation through the hexagonal shapes, a very nice feature, works really well, and actually doesn't really get very dusty, even though there isn't a specific dust filter on there. Also with the back panel, which is going to be handy for those of you that are doing a build with maybe a lot of cabling, the back panel is recessed as well. So not only have you got the space in the back of the chassis, you've also got the space which is included in here, as this is effectively hollow. The rubberized edges around there as well will help to remove any vibrations that may be present on the system. Again, if it was metal to metal, you may find there's kind of some weird resonance, but those rubber edges on there should help to combat that. So looking inside, we can see here we've got the rear view of the power supply. Now, like I said before, it's a standard power supply. The regular ATX standard will fit in this, which in some respects is a slightly odd inclusion why they've added it. It's a 600 watt, it's a bronze, so it's not the best of the best, but it is still a reasonable power supply. If maybe you're looking for a higher end build with 1080s, R7 2700X, that kind of thing, maybe you want to plump for something a little bit bigger, but this should cater for most bases. So in this particular build, I'm going to be using a Ryzen 3 2200G Mini ITX motherboard from ASRock, which hasn't arrived yet, which is why I'm not filming the build in this quite yet. This is going to be in an upcoming video. So actually, if you do want to see how the build goes and how it all fits together, then make sure you subscribe and you'll be notified when that video is released. But anyway, so yeah, Ryzen 3 2200G, it's going to be a basic motherboard. I may put in the RX 580 4GB, which is actually in the machine behind me, if I can upgrade that, maybe if I get a good deal. There are some good deals at the moment, so maybe that might happen. But anyway, back to the case. So in the back here, you've got the power supply. There's an on-off switch, which probably isn't very useful as it's going to be enclosed. You've got a right-angled power connector, again, so you can squeeze as much room in there as possible. Like I said, it will fit a standard size ATX power supply. If for any reason the power supply should fail, you can actually replace it. The only downside being is the power supply has a dedicated USB or micro USB connector to power the QI charger on the top. So that is something you may have to look into to source separately. But it's a 600 watt power supply, it's FSP, it should last pretty well. Moving down through here, you've got the I/O panel, and the actual I/O panel is completely removable. So if you actually do want to take this all apart, remove the power supply, all that kind of stuff, don't worry, all this comes out very easily, just a couple of screws and you can remove the entire I/O panel to gain full access to the power supply. Now the I/O panel cabling, all in this nice black cabling, and most of it is the kind of the narrow cabling, so it fits in through here nicely. Plenty of cutouts to route all the cabling through, so no worries there. The power supply itself actually comes with a 24-pin connector for the motherboard, which is a 24/20. You've also got the 4+4 for the CPU power. There is a 8-pin graphics card connector, which also splits into an additional 6+2, and actually the first one is a 6+2 as well. So pretty much all combinations of graphics cards are catered for, so whether it's a single 6-pin, a single 8-pin, an 8 and a 6, or an 8 and an 8, you've got no problems at all, that'll be catered for. And again, 600 watts should power most of those cards pretty simply. So I've already routed through the SATA power connectors because I'm going to be putting just a simple 240 gig SSD in here. There isn't going to be a M.2 drive in here. Maybe in a later edition that might happen, but the chances are what I'm going to do is put a 240 gig SSD and possibly a 1 or 2 terabyte mechanical drive just for movies and that kind of stuff, and maybe the odd game. So all the connectors are already routed in pretty much straight out of the factory. So you've got a connector for your USB type 3, you've got your HD audio, and also there's an RGB connector, which is tucked down here, which comes up from that bottom base bit, and has also got a pass-through connector. There's also a coupling connector included in the packaging, so you can connect up additional RGB devices. The I/O connection block is a single modular block, which makes life a lot easier, saves you having to fiddle around with the individual little pin switches or connectors, especially in the slightly cramped environment that is a Mini ITX case. So looking further over, you've got your two mounting drive areas. So these again, all with captive screws, and you can remove the drive bracket, install your drive, put it back in. Also, this doubles up as a nice feature to gain access to the back of the motherboard. So should you wish to put some sort of water cooling on or a custom cooler, you can gain access to the back of the motherboard to gain access to the screws or bolts which may be necessary. Both of these come out and will give you quite a lot of room in this rear section. And last but not least, on the back here, we've got our section here for adding a 120mm fan. Now, some people have already tried to put water cooling solutions in here and there just isn't enough room. It's pretty cramped. So a 120mm fan is the best you can get there. Now, depending on your setup, you may want to have that as an exhaust. It is really better set up for that, as you have the air exhausting through. Like I said before, there isn't a dedicated air filter on there. So ideally you want it to be an exhaust rather than drawing unfiltered air into the system. But depending on your setup and how many fans you want to put in here, you have got the option for a 120mm fan here. You've got two 120mm fans on the base, and you've got a rear 120mm fan option as well. So you could have a balanced system where you have two exhausts, two intake. Again, the choice is pretty much up to you. So going around to the rear, you've got the standard size I/O panel, space here for a 120mm fan, also adjustable up and down. So if you've got a fan or maybe a water cooler, which is slightly bigger at one end or the other, then there is a little bit of wiggle room to adjust it to however you need to be. Two slots here for PCI Express. So if you've got a triple slot card and you're planning to put it in here, not going to happen, my friends. This is a two slot at the most. Single slot cards would be beneficial. I would definitely check on if you're putting a graphics card in here. Lengthwise, you're fine up to about 300mm, but depth-wise, you are going to struggle with anything more than a two slot card. Further on down, you've got the entry point for your kettle lead for power, which is conveniently routed through the system and to the power supply at the front. So keeping it nice and neat on the back should be pretty easy to do. So another quick look at the main side. So you've got mounting area for your Mini ITX motherboard. Again, I haven't actually used one of these before, or a Mini ITX case of this type before, so it's going to be interesting to see how easy it is to build in there. Obviously it is quite cramped, so it is going to be slightly challenging in some ways for cable management. Although saying that, this shield on the front here, which covers the cables, also does kind of direct them around the power supply as well towards their intended designations. So the power supply actually should be quite easy to do. The only thing that may necessarily need changing, the graphics card connector at the moment is currently passing through there to come out that side, which would then kind of naturally drop down into this kind of position. But alternatively, there is a cutout here, so you could run the cable down the front of the case and then connect up a graphics card if you've got a longer card, maybe along here. Now, if you have got a longer card, it isn't a problem. There is actually a graphics card rest or mount, so you can put that on there and it will stop the card from sagging. As we do with longer cards, they do have a tendency to sag. There is a bracket there that will support it quite easily. So let's take a look at the base of the machine. So on the base, as you can see, you've got this nice mesh grille for filtration. You can quite easily remove this plastic surround and then install your fans. Obviously, ideally, you want them to be intake fans, so to make full use of the filtration, but obviously you can mount them whichever way you choose to. Or you could actually, if you're going for a low TDP system, you could possibly get away with actually leaving it in its stock configuration and not adding any fans at all. At first, when I unboxed it, I did think it was slightly unusual that an in-win case of this kind of caliber and price actually, that it didn't come with any fans. But I suppose with a lot of people, especially with Mini ITX builds, there's a lot of little caveats and things that you need to do or want to do with your system. So maybe including the fans to raise the price even further would have been a bad idea. At least this way it gives you the flexibility. If you don't want to put RGB fans in the bottom and wherever, then you can save yourself some money. This bit is pretty much going to be covered up anyway. You won't see a lot of it. The RGB ring is going to give you most of your color in. So if you didn't want to go for the kind of slightly more expensive Polaris fans in the base, you could go with the cheaper option in the base, save your money and put a couple of Polaris fans in the rear and also the side 120 positions, which is most likely what I'm going to end up doing. So that pretty much wraps up the unboxing and quick review of the in-win A1 case. Now there is actually another one of these due out in the coming months here in the UK. I think they've been released pretty much everywhere else already. The A1 Plus. So if you want essentially the same design as this, but with addressable RGB lighting and included fans straight out of the box, then maybe that's going to be an option for you. I will put links, which are affiliate links, in the description below, and also links to InWin's site, so you can check out the exact specs, configurations, which may be applicable to your region. There will be Amazon links as well, so you can check out the prices for these. The price is actually the one sticking point, in my opinion. The case itself, the chassis, the build quality certainly does hint towards a premium price, and there is a premium price for this. At the moment in the UK, we're looking at about £160 for this. In the US, looking around about $220, that kind of money. But again, prices do fluctuate, so keep an eye on it. Maybe keep it in your basket in your Amazon account and wait for those price drops. There are price drops happening now and then, so you may find yourself, you get a bargain. Ideally for me, this would probably be in the kind of maybe £130 mark. At 160, for me, it's a little bit on the pricey side, if I'm being completely honest. But the inclusion of the power supply already fitted, pretty much most of the cable management already routed, the QI charger, which for some people could be actually a deal breaker, not having a QI charger, because it is one of those things that is becoming more and more popular, and a lot more phones are now starting to use that standard, so it is very, very desirable. But there we go. Anyway, I'm waffling on. If you want more information, the links will be in the description below. But in the meantime, I'll be Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and we will catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.